2024. It's 5:02 p.m. If you would, Pastor Carlos, if you would open us up with a word of prayer, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. As we pray for new wells of revival, we pray for new economic wells in the greater Clewiston region to be created. So, Lord, we ask you for favor for our city with CEOs, government leaders, and kings, manufacturing firms that produce goods for the nations and provides new jobs for our people, technology to establish new markets, energy sources and efficient solutions to grow as a population, laws in court that measure with the justice and the freedom of our land's constitution, civil servants that encourage entrepreneurs, and a media known for wisdom and truth, natural resources released, harvested, sold, and reproduced, education, books, and universities that develop mind molders who influence the influential, capital to build small businesses that provide services, arts, culture, attracting both young and old, a medical community known for integrity and excellence, repentance from poverty, small thinking, and envy, courage to recognize opportunities and make wealth, abundance to bless the world, and the prudence to save and invest, revelation to pass on wealth to our children's children. So we declare that when the righteous prosper, the city rejoices. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Manager, any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, we're going to remove number 6, agenda item. We need a little more time.
Okay, remove item 6. Okay, at this time, we'll have comments from the public, and I know we have at least 2 visitors here today that are going to speak. Is there anyone else before they speak would like to come up and say anything? Okay, seeing none, y'all can flip a coin or... Our Congressman Scott Franklin is here today, along with our Representative Lauren Mello at the state.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and Commissioners. Thank you. It's are you councilmen or commissioners here? And
Commissioners.
Okay, so I had the privilege before serving in Congress of being on the Lakeland City Commission, and I have a lot of people who say, "Oh, you're a city councilor." I'm like, "No, in Lakeland it's a city commissioner." But I'm glad to know, here in Clewiston it's city commissioners as well. And thank you all who are attending here in the chamber. I used to spent several years on the Lakeland City Commission, and I was always excited to see a great turnout from the public at our commission meetings. This is where things happen. So for those who are here or those who are tuning in, it is vitally important that you participate in your local government process, because this is really where things happen. And I wish we could move with the speed and the determination and the willfulness at the congressional level that happens at the local level. And I always tell people that government closest to the people works best, and this is where things happen. So we used to meet when I was in Lakeland on Monday as well, and I would say we could make decisions on a Monday. We could start putting them into effect by Wednesday, and by the weekend we'd have an idea if things were working or not. I mean, you can readjust and adapt on the fly, and I just think government works very well that way. So I commend what you all are doing. Thank you for your service. It's not easy to do. It takes a lot of your time, and but just appreciate you, and I appreciate the opportunity to represent you in Washington. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Congressman. I'd just like to say thank you for being here with us today. I know that your visit to Clewiston was most special, and we appreciate the work you do on our behalf as a fishing and farming town. I know that you know what we need as a community, and we so appreciate your service to our town.
Well, thank you
so much.
It's a privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Lauren Mello from the Naples area is our state representative in Tallahassee.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to come up and speak to you all. I don't get the opportunity much to come and see you all here. We will be ramping up in December. Our committee weeks will start. We have a late session this year, so session will start in March. Something I want to put on your radar, it may already be there. January 10th at 12:30, 1 o'clock, we will be having our Hendry County Delegation Day. and it will be here in this chamber. So I will be chairing that, and of course the Senate President Pasadomo will be with me here as well. We have 2 more years with her, so we are blessed to have her for another 2 years. So everybody needs to get their requests ready, their appropriations, start thinking about them now. Kathleen is here, my district aide, so anybody who needs forms or any paperwork, please send an email, shoot me a text, whatever you need from me, let me know. We're happy to make sure that you have all your forms. And in closing, I would just like to thank my federal partner, Congressman Franklin, for being so gracious with his time today and coming to our sweet little town of Clewiston.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lauren. We
That,
appreciate you very much. all
Make
that
sure
you
you
do.
let
Yeah.
our Senate President know about our fire truck. If you don't mind, Travis,
I think
hold that
I
up.
think we jumped ahead. There's a request
helped
right
us,
there for you.
Between,
And Laura, you want to?
yeah, we just need a new building to put it in, right? That'll be on the next list.
Thank you for the warning.
Okay, any other public comments? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I know that both our state representative and our congressman have other engagements tonight
Oh, yeah, you guys are
representing
more
us.
than welcome to,
So we appreciate so much the time that y'all spent, but I think that they have to.
yes.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Safe travels home.
Okay, that was awesome. All right.
I'll motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Haslop, second by Gardner. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are now going to have a project update on the Ventura resurfacing project. Dave from Johnson Engineering. I think Andy bugged out on you.
He did. His
Yeah.
his truck was fixed,
Yeah.
so he was just over here just for a few minutes.
Oh, okay, good.
So, Dave with Johnson Engineering for the record. And can we bring up that exhibit on the screen? Do we have that? Maybe not. Do you guys have this in your packet?
Yep.
And we don't have to. Well, anyway, I'll just talk in general. So we had Tetra Tech get to 60% design plans. That was our goal, to make sure that what we're showing is a constructible per all the DOT standards, per all the requirements, that this can be built. So that's what you have in your packet. It is a little bit less of the parking spaces than we showed in our conceptual back at the 30%, which was one of the main reasons we wanted Tetra Tech to get to this point. So they are at this point. I know Danny has spoken with the church, the insurance
company, yes. And
then
they're for the program. They're for it. The church would like for us to add some parking, which I think we'll look at that.
you said around the
sometime.
corner, I think. You said
Yeah,
to
they
the
want,
grass.
yeah, we're taking a few, and then there's a grass area that's south.
Yeah,
So
so-
I think it's doable.
So that's good. Yeah, really good input. I know we were in front of their church. We're taking those kind of, call them fake handicap spots on the south side of Ventura there. So
Right.
pushing them a little bit further east. But if they're on board with getting some grass spots paved on the side, that makes me feel good. So really don't have much else. Just want to kind of give you an update of where we are and where Tetra Tech is. Our next steps are going to be adding in some landscaping, and then moving Tetra Tech plans to 90%. And then Danny and I can talk to any other property owners that may be affected, to make sure we have sufficient buy-in.
I appreciate it. I mean, Danny had told me when I asked him about this that he had, personally had gone to speak to the church and to some of the insurance company, and he had reached out to some of the other business owners because, some of this might impact some of the businesses in the future. And so I appreciate, the city staff making sure that, lessens the impact for their access. And I see that some changes have been made, and I appreciate that, because, like I said, I wasn't able to support it because I felt like we were putting the cart before the horse without talking to the property owners first. So I appreciate the city manager and our engineering firm to look at this and just to reach out to the business owners and see what impact it would have on them. It's a big project. It's going to be a beautiful project.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be an absolutely beautiful project, and I know it will enhance, that the Ventura Avenue corridor, and the businesses themselves as well.
Yeah, a lot more walkable, a lot more green space. It just really, in my opinion, helps the storefront on all of them, just more presentable and a lot safer.
Yeah, definitely a lot safer.
What I know you talked about the next phase, but timeline wise, what are you looking at to maybe get the final documents?
To get to 90s, I would say probably another month or so. That'll include landscaping. I don't want to speak on Tetra Tech's behalf too definitive, but I would say within a couple months we can get to the final set of plans. I think they're most of the way here was getting the layout of everything, so adding a little bit more detail and specifics. They need to lay out some of the drainage that's been affected, so that's going to be the bulk of their work. So I'd
I
say
think
a couple
maybe
months.
going out for bid after the first of the year.
That would be
right around that
a good
time.
estimate, yeah. And I'll confirm that and get back with
Yeah,
Danny on that.
That would be great. You can do it that quick.
So, yep. I know budget-wise, that's about where it's headed. So.
Okay, good.
Good.
Anyone else have any questions, comments? All right, Dave, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
That was pretty painless. We'll have to wait till we get to 90%.
Yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a ordinance number 2024-03. Let's see, there's a recommendation to table this ordinance. I'm still going to go ahead and read it by title. It's ordinance 2024-03, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinance 50-7 storage on private property, provided for codification, severability, repeal of laws in conflict, and for an effective date. And this was the workshop that we had recently, mainly discussing the RV storage on private property. The staff recommendation is to table this tonight because after our workshop last week, we decided that the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board would bring back to us the items we talked about, and then we can kind of massage that once we get it. So if that's favorable to the commission, we'll entertain a motion to table.
I'll make a motion to table the final reading of ordinance number 2024-03 to a date certain of December 16th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, motion by Gardner, second by Highslope. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 4 on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance 2024-15. I'll read that by title. Ordinance 2024-15, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinance, Chapter 14, Animals, amending Section 14-28, Running at Large Prohibited, creating Section 14-106, Unregulated Sale of Dogs and Cats Prohibited, providing for inclusion in the Code of Ordinance, conflict, severability, providing for an effective date. I'll open the first reading of this ordinance to the public. If there's anyone that would like to make a public comment concerning this ordinance, you're more than welcome to approach the microphone and state your name and address.
And this is the first reading of this ordinance. Okay.
Tom, you want to give everyone a brief overview of what this consist of?
Tom Lewis, Police Department. There are two specific sections, and I'll just talk about them separately if that is okay with the commission. The first one is the changes to Section 14-28, running at large. We kind of talked in previous meetings about the current, what they refer to as a TNVR program, which is trap, neuter, vaccinate, and release. It's what we do to feral cats. The program is basically meant to take unadoptable pets that can't be socialized with human beings, and we trap them, we vaccinate them, we neuter them, and we put them back out into the community. They're territorial animals, and so it ultimately, the purpose is to reduce the overall stray cat population. So we did some numbers. We obviously are completely through the first 9 months of this calendar year, but in comparison to the 2 previous years, the first year we implemented the program, we took in 703 cats in the first 9 months of that calendar year. So you didn't really realize a difference in the first year. The second year, however, that number was reduced to 479, which was a 31, almost 32% decrease. The following year, which is this year, the first 9 months, we've taken in 389 cats, which is another reduction of almost 19%. So since we've implemented this program, we've seen a total overall almost 45% reduction in cat intakes. So it's clear from the data now long-term that this particular program works, right? We're effectively reducing the stray cat population. Our calls for service reference to cats are down, although dogs are up. That's the next conversation. But we're just looking at effective ways to try to not only reduce the population of stray animals, but also it helps reduce the overall tax burden to the consumer when those volumes of animals aren't coming in. So in reference to this,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I have a quick question on this one.
Yes.
I see the return of feral cats to their outdoor location. So I just want to make sure that we're not picking up cats outside the city limits of Clewiston and we're bringing them in here and fixing them and then just leaving them here in the neighborhood.
No, that's
any neighborhood.
That's a great question. So the program is meant to take the cat from the location, TNVR, and put it back in the exact same location that it came in. That's the ideal situation. There does come situations where folks in our community are allergic to cats, and we can't return them to the exact location that they were, but we work with farmers, ranchers, building owners, and we call them now barn cats. So we do have locations where folks are willing, not inside the city, but we do have folks that are out in agricultural type settings where they're willing to take a small colony of cats, and they ultimately reduce the rodent population for those people. So that's pretty much how the program works. We partner with Critter Care here locally as far as getting that TNVR done. The majority of the time, depends on scheduling, but one of the things that we had mentioned months ago when we talked about the program, it was an actual technical violation of the ordinance. And so the verbiage that is proposed tonight, one of the 2 changes, is to fix that. It'll ultimately keep the language of the ordinance as is, but make an exception for the city's TNVR program. Any questions before we move on? Okay. So the second change, just give you a little bit of background, and again, just for the public's consumption as well. We became a no-kill shelter on June the 2nd of 2021. Since that time, more than 4,100 animals have entered the animal shelter here in Clewiston. Of those animals, 1,968 were dogs. About 66%, or about 1,300 of those animals, were actual stray dogs. So we know through research and through other communities that have done studies that a good majority of those dogs are either dumped here. We're a known dumping site for the East Coast, unfortunately, but we also have a massive number of backyard breeders. And so backyard breeders are folks that don't have a business license, they don't pay taxes. Typically we see horrendous conditions, not everyone, but a vast majority. And just to give you an example, we had one breeder out in Montura where we got 67 dogs off of the property. And some of those dogs were living in the most insane conditions, by anybody's standard. So those are the type of things that we want to address, not only for the safety and for the health of our animal population and our human population here in Hendry County, but it'll also help to reduce the number of dog intakes that we're taking in. Again, trying to help reduce that tax burden and reduce what is an overpopulated shelter 365 days a year. So What we don't want to do is we're very supportive of legitimate and responsible breeders. They get inspected by the Department of Health. They actually maintain proper vet care, have a business license, and they pay taxes. So this particular ordinance is really to address those folks that are running under the radar, kind of skirting the law, have absolutely no business or legitimate medical care for these folks. They're just literally turning out animals, and the ones that they can't sell, they dump on the side of the road. They ultimately come into our shelter and ultimately become the burden of the taxpayer here.
I have a question on that one.
Yes, ma'am.
I sometimes see vehicles parked in different areas, and I call and let y'all know.
Sure.
But I see them and they have their trunk up or their doors open and they're selling puppies.
Yes.
Would this address that issue?
100%.
Okay.
So folks that are coming here that do not have if you guys support this ordinance change, it would make it a misdemeanor. It would make it illegal, a crime, to just randomly sell animals on the side of the road, to randomly advertise for sale animals, to sell an animal that has not already been spayed or neutered, unless you have a legitimate business through the Department of State. You have a business tax receipt here in the city of Clewiston, and so you're a legitimate business. The backyard breeders or hobby breeders, as they're known as, puppy mills, they're also known as, would be illegal. So that's what this proposed ordinance is
First
targeting.
of all, I wouldn't compare Montura to anything in the city of Clewiston, let alone breeding dogs or horses or cows. It's unfair to compare that. I've lived here almost all my life, and I've never known a puppy mill one in Clewiston. Are there people that have some dogs and they decide to breed? Yep. Should they need a business license? I think it's overreaching on a city government to try to regulate that. It's unmanageable. We're having a hard enough time managing food trucks, let alone a couple that decide to breed some dogs in their house. I've seen some people from Montura behind McDonald's selling dogs.
Sure.
But as far as breeders, I've never known it to be a problem. Never known to come across the puppy mill. Never known to come across the house full of 150 cats, like does happen in Montura and Pioneer and outside the city limits. And then there's a view of some people think nobody should breed dogs. You should adopt a dog instead of breeding. I disagree with that. And I think this kind of leans towards that. So Section 2, I wouldn't support it as written.
And I am going to support it. And the reason why I would support it is that even though we might not have an issue right now, there could be an issue that comes in from other areas that would impact us. And I think that, we certainly don't want to see illegal operations, in someone's backyard.
There's a way to manage that now. It's animal cruelty.
Well, we were told that if you can't see it from the front yard, you can't deal with the backyard. And so I'm hoping that this would help take care of that.
Agreed. And any law that we pass, it obviously comes with a reasonable enforcement of the law. And so, this isn't about, haha, got you because, your dog accidentally got pregnant when it got loose. This is about folks that are not paying taxes, don't have a proper business, and are just simply doing it on the side. Typically, I'm not saying everybody, but typically what we see are conditions that are worse than folks that do have a business. They are medical care that they don't get because it's about profit. So those are the type of things that this is going to address.
But this is only for the city of Clewiston. This is not going to address the issue outside the city limits unless the county's going to also adopt this.
Correct. So my thought process is to get it adopted here in the city of Clewiston and ultimately approach our folks over there on the county side to hopefully get it enacted over there.
Any other questions or discussion?
Have you come across an issue in the city limits?
As far as having 67 dogs, not to that extent. The answer is no. We do find issues like Commissioner Gardner has spoken about, where they just show up at Tractor Supply and they sell dogs and they're very ill. They don't have the proper medical care, and this in the city of Clewiston would fix that issue.
So if this passes and I have a male and a female Frenchie, it's a popular breed, and I have a litter of puppies and I decide to sell them, I would be a criminal if I decided to sell those puppies.
No, you wouldn't be a criminal. You would just have to get a business license and pay taxes on that sale.
Didn't go through those hoops to sell one litter of puppies, I'd be a criminal after this.
You would be violating the law, yes.
If I was crocheting quilts and decided to sell them without a business license, what's the difference?
I think the biggest difference here is the unintended consequence of hobby breeders ultimately winds up in our shelter and becomes the tax burden of the city. Quilters don't wind up in our shelter. If you throw your quilt away, the taxpayer doesn't really have a burden on that side.
Well, I just asked that question because you were pushing business license.
Legitimate.
Nobody from the state's going to come in and inspect a breeder's got 2 dogs. They're overwhelmed. They're trying to respond to these horrible breeders outside the city limits that do have 20, 30, 40 dogs, and they're all outside, not in the household. Which my experience here is, it's 2 or 3 dogs in a home, and it's a family that's breeding their dogs and selling them, and we haven't had an issue. My knowledge.
Oh, it would stop folks like that from selling their dogs here in the city. And again, we have come across dogs that are being sold on the side of the road here in the city limits that are very ill because they're coming from backyard breeders, whether it be in Montura or elsewhere. This would stop that from happening.
I'd be concerned about the people living in town rather than the people coming from outside. If they're selling them, there's any type of adverse condition that's addressable through current law, not usually.
And I definitely see your point. I can tell you from an enforcement perspective, it's hard for me to go inside your house and inspect and know. And so that it becomes a behind closed door issue. However, you can address it when it comes outside of that closed door, when you're out in the public selling them. So it's a much easier enforcement mechanism for us.
Is there any state law? Is there anything on the books now that you could use to prevent that?
No.
No state law about throwing in the parking lot, dog in a cage, selling?
No, not that I'm aware of.
It's the local municipalities that have to regulate that.
Correct. I mean, just like the city has a no soliciting ordinance and things like that. I mean, these are local level things that typically enacted. And there's many cities. We didn't create the language out of thin air. We're taking this model from many other Florida cities that are realizing the exact same problem and taking action. And so this isn't, again, something that the city of Clewiston is trying to invent the wheel. There are many Florida examples that we actually took the language from to kind of mold it into what we believe would work here locally.
Tom, you kind of know where these animals come from, correct?
Yeah, the majority, the reality is the majority of cats come from the city and the majority of dogs come from Montura. Those are facts.
Can we address that area?
On the county level, yes. But my belief in
I think we
in
should stop
government
it
is
where
it always starts at home.
I think we should stop it where it starts. So maybe team with the county, say, hey, what can we come up with? Because this is what's happening in the city, which is putting a burden on the city. So maybe possibly let's come up with a solution and go to the source.
Yeah, I again, the thought process was fix it here at home first.
Right.
Approach the county.
I kind of see Thompson's side because people do like have Rottweilers, whatever, would like to breed and sell those. I mean, what does a license cost if they get a permit or whatever it takes?
It's next to nothing.
Next to nothing?
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with that, but I think we really need to go after the source.
But we also have, since we do, I can see that, we're not going to be the, big government here going out to door by door and trying to find.
No, that is definitely not it.
But I think that because of the fact that they are coming here and they are selling, and that I just think that we're going to nip it in the bud ahead of time and ask to partner with the county to, like you're saying, go to the source. But the burden is being shared here in the city of having so many dogs being dumped in the city.
And another issue that we have is Animal Services is not a criminal investigation or a criminal enforcement arm. And so when you split up the Animal Services, we get all the dogs from Montura, and we have absolutely no ability to enforce criminal law out there. So when you talk about these hoarders, it's up to the sheriff's office to go out there and do criminal investigations and things like that. And this provides a mechanism for us, again, to address the issue. And so instead of relying on somebody else to try to help, this is a fix.
So let's fix the issue. Let's fix the issue of people bringing dogs in and selling them on the street.
This would fix that.
Pulling the trigger and shooting everybody. Let's just fix the problem. This isn't even reactionary because we don't have a problem with that in the city. We have a handful that comes into the city itself, but as far as people breeding and having horrible conditions and breeders in the city, we don't.
But this is the first reading, and I think it's something that I'm glad we're having the discussion, but this is the first reading, and I think we should, I'm going to be in support of it because there will be a second reading, and maybe there's more information that can be brought to us, especially if we can, Danny, if we can confirm with the county that advise them that, because we do monitor Montura. I mean, that is part of our what we do in animal control. I think it's important for us to start the process and discuss it at the second reading, and see if there's anything else that the county can help us with on this. It might have to modify some of the wording on this ordinance, but I think to stop people from bringing their animals from other places here is important, and that's part of what you have already in this ordinance, and get the county to back us up on this.
I agree with Commissioner Gardner. We should take action on preventing that. But see what we can do to restructure it, carve it out, whatever we got to do.
Anything specific?
I'm okay. I'm going to support this. I'm just saying that if there's any other questions from the county, that we can address with the county, or if there's any different wording that maybe needs to be adjusted here, that we have until the second reading to adjust it. But I'm good with it. I think that we don't want unwanted animals, being bred in our city,
But a lot of
and we don't have it right now, obviously, from what we know. But for the future, we don't know what's going to happen, and I just think this will help prevent it.
And I'd maybe defer to Dylan maybe a little bit. I don't know that we can just say it's illegal for people that live in Montura. I mean, so
Right.
No,
that's a little bit difficult.
I think it's what Commissioner Thompson is trying to carve out. Maybe is
sales in
that
somebody's
local-
home is different than on the street.
that local person that wants to breed a dog with the neighbor and they just want to sell those 5 or 6 or 10 puppies.
That's
and
the
they're
problem.
done with it until maybe another 5 years down the road. I think that's what he doesn't want those people to, and I don't know if there's something that can be put in language-wise to protect.
But I mean, they still can. That's what I'm
They still
understanding.
can
They still
if they get a
can.
license, right?
Correct.
But I
Correct.
mean,
It's an overreach.
any other place you want to do business in this community, guess what you have to have?
Get a business
license.
license.
I mean, if you want to make money running a business, you have to have a license.
I don't think a lot of the old-time mom and pop families that do that thought you had to have a license.
Right.
I mean, it's been done for the last 100 years in our
Yeah.
city. Next year will be 100 years. And they've never had to have the license. But now, because of dog dumping and people coming in and selling, yes, they should have a license, and I understand that part. It's hard to separate, people that are doing the wrong thing and need to be regulated to one family that wants to breed a dog and keep 2 puppies and sell 3. And they have to go get a license. Well, I see Greg's point in that, but I do agree with we need the ordinance. So if there's language we can carve that out or massage that some way, I think that's what everyone's talking about. Maybe we can research it.
And I'll just say that's my experience. Some of the most responsible, clean, safe breeders have been in somebody's home. I've been many states, traveled, I've bought them. They're villainized. They are the most responsible breeders.
I don't disagree
that there
with
are.
that statement.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. Again, the application or enforcement of the laws.
How to put it correctly, some people in the animal community like the villainized breeders. They are the most responsible,
animal breeders by far, no matter what animal that I've come across. There's some bad actors. You pointed out some really good bad actors in Montura. So somebody wants to breed their dog and breed their dog responsibly once or twice. Do I think a government should impose another tax on them? No. And that's what it is. It's another tax. If somebody has a breeding business and has a full-time, they got 15 dogs in their backyard and that's all they do, that's a business. For a husband and wife to breed their dog one time, to ask them to jump through hoops and to pay another tax, I think it's unfair. I think it's overreaching on us. And I think it's almost virtually impossible to police. I mean, you're going to have neighbors picking up the phone, hey, I see a car next door. They got a dog walking around. I think they're selling it. We got enough on our plate in trying to police that. But I would like to address the people on the street selling dogs. I've seen them behind McDonald's. I've seen them at Tractor Supply. That's atrocious. They're out there in the hot heat all day long trying to sell these puppies, and it's not good for the dog and whoever's buying that dog. So if there's any way, my opinion, my view, if there's any way we could separate that from the other, I would be great with it.
I mean, if we approve this first reading, before the second reading, you could look at language and make some recommendations.
Absolutely. I'll just comment. I can also understand the policy perspectives on both sides of the issue. There are cities that are all over the place. There are cities that don't regulate animal breeding whatsoever. There are cities that completely outlaw it, even as far as large commercial breeders go. So there's just sort of a wide range of policy viewpoints across the state of Florida. I don't think you would run into a lot of issues if you tried to tailor a law to a single geographical area or people outside of a town bringing animals in. I could maybe you tailor it to sales specifically out of a vehicle
in the public.
If that's what the issue is, and that's, if people are bringing in animals and selling them out of a vehicle within city limits, perhaps you tailor the ordinance preventing the sale of animals outside of a vehicle.
But let's say we don't have an ordinance to regulate, just like we do every other business in town, right? And somebody moves in and sets it up something out of their home operation.
Right.
It's not existing now, but it could be in the future. And then we come back with an ordinance.
And I think that's where the chief's perspective comes in. Is it's a lot easier to enforce. If you see someone selling an animal, you can ask them for the license. If they don't have it, then that's a violation, as opposed to not having anything on the books and then it's completely unenforceable. So again, it's just one of those issues where I totally understand both sides of it. And it just kind of comes down to how much you want to regulate.
Okay, are there any other comments from the public? Okay, we'll declare the public hearing closed. Any comments for the commission or questions for the chief? Anyone else? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion that we approve the first reading of ordinance number 2024-15.
The second, or you want me? I can second. Okay.
Okay, motion by Highslope, second by Edmonds. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, 4 yeas and 1 nay. Okay. We'll look for language and readdress this at the December meeting. November meeting. That part of the motion? I don't
Sure.
think it has to be.
I'm comfortable with that. It can be reviewed. Thank you.
You amend your second? Okay, it's amended to include the language that the ordinance will be reviewed or to include additional language per our discussion. Okay. Item number 5 on the agenda is a resolution 2024-081. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, approving agreement L0016, an agreement between the State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the department, and the City of Clewiston. And this is for the water line. Danny, you have any further comments about that?
Well, it's grant funded, so it's funded fully. Congratulations, and thank those who were here earlier tonight, who does remarkable work. But yes, this is removing an old 4-inch cast iron pipe in the Harlem community. So finally, thank you. I think that line was in the 1950s.
Cast, I
But
bet
we-
you
Cast,
before that.
yes. So,
But
no,
we do,
very excited.
But we
about
do
it.
have older lines than that
Yes.
from the 30s in the
Yes.
community as
But
well.
you know, there's a lot of cities that way. We're
Yeah.
not the only ones, so don't think that, you know.
Yeah.
That road was original employee housing.
Yes.
I think it was probably the 30s.
It's pretty common. I think like the 4-inch, it runs the alleyways, and it was pretty common. And so those were probably all about the same time, cast iron. But no, we're very excited. So again, like I said, it's grant funded fully. It will tie into the new line that goes to Everglades, so that'll definitely help Harlem even more and our fire boys.
So it'll feed back instead of.
No, it's feeding from the plant, but just when whatever we decide to put to feed the north side in Everglades, we're looking at a 24, maybe a 12. So we'll loop that on 13th Street once it ties in. But no, Dave, do we have preliminary plans, or do you have? Yes. Okay, so we've made some progress. So
Make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-081.
Second.
Motion by Gardner, second by Thompson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 6 has been
we removed that one, Mayor.
waylaid to the next meeting, or okay, any old business for discussion tonight? Anything from the departmental monthly activity reports? Any questions, comments? Okay, comments from the city manager?
Yeah, we have a few, Mayor. Our point of sales is working. At City Hall, we are making progress with other sites. So that's a good sign that we're making progress on our point of sales. Thank you.
Well, it didn't take
The employee handbook is done. We'll present that probably at the next meeting. We had to look at a few things, but I'm excited about that too. So,
That didn't take 2 years either. It's amazing.
yeah. So anyway, making progress, and other than that, we're good.
All right, city attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. As you guys have in your packets, you requested at our last meeting a list of the currently existing code enforcement liens. That's provided for you here for a discussion. There's actually not that many. While the city does have a number of active liens, the numbers that I believe there's only really 5 or 6 that are above the 10,000 limit at this point. So, I'm open for.
Well,
I'd like to
Dylan,
hear the board's.
if I'm not mistaken, we talked about commercial properties. These are only residential properties, which is not what we discussed. We discussed commercial properties and non-homestead properties.
I know, Debbie, do you have any comments on that?
These are all residential neighborhoods on these.
I believe the list given to you does have the commercial properties, and all of the properties on that list are non-homestead, whether they be residential properties or not. They are non-homesteaded properties, so they could be legally foreclosed upon. And there is, I think if you look for 725 East El Paso,
Yes.
that might be the commercial. The commercial is added
I
in
just
on that
I just
list.
saw it all. The first 2 pages is residential, and some of them are 2 pages of the same property owner. So residential, or in the resident 3 pages of the first property owner. So
Correct.
4.
And that is because they had several of the mowing liens. So each one is an individual lien. Same property though.
think I'd like to maybe hold off on this and let's discuss it. Let me talk to you guys individually. I talked to Debbie today. There's one on here, the 725, that's really kind of out of control. I think it's a little our fault, their fault. So I'd like to hold off and making any type decisions and discuss these maybe one-on-one, and then we can come back and clean it up a little bit.
But you'll talk to the city attorney. I mean,
Of
that
course.
was over $100,000 on a
Well,
commercial piece of
there's-
property.
there's
So
a-
there's
there's-
more than just
yeah.
There's more to the story than
Yes,
just that.
yes,
Okay.
I got
All right.
that today.
Well, I'd like to make sure that whatever the story is on each of these,
That's what I'd like
from
to
a
work on.
from a perspective, whether it's the city's, whatever we didn't do as far as due diligence, that is done. Because if it's something that we didn't do correctly, then we need to own up to it, and we need to figure that out. But yes, I think that if it's non-commercial property, non-residential properties or non-residential neighborhoods, and these are commercial properties, I think we should look at them.
Sure. I'll just comment briefly on how that process. So the first step is to go to our magistrate and request permission to foreclose if that's something we wanted to do. And at which point you would then proceed in circuit court to file an action against the property site. Those can take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, depending on how busy the courts are in that process. And another thing to consider when you think about going after these liens is that there could be other lien priorities existing at the site. So a good idea is to always perform a title search if a city is considering going after enforcing some of its liens, to take a look at what other existing encumbrances are at the site. Because even if you proceed through the court process, which again could take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, if you eventually receive a default on the site and it goes up for judicial sale, whatever funds obtained from that sale will go first to the higher priority liens. So you could end up in a situation, depending on the particular site, where your code enforcement lien isn't actually satisfied from the resulting judicial sale.
But why wouldn't we have looked at title search first before we even
That's wrong.
initiate anything?
Right.
And the fact is that, if these funds are outstanding and are owed to the city of Clewiston, I think we need to notify the property owners first. I know we gave everybody a grace period to come back with some kind of lien reduction. My understanding is no one took us up on that.
Correct.
Is that correct? Especially the one that's over 100,000.
Correct.
But I would think that first we'd have to look at each of those properties and see where we're at as far as the lien's concerned, because we shouldn't expend foreclosure proceedings without first knowing, do we have a clear path to recoup these
Absolutely
funds?
right. Absolutely right.
Dylan, how does the court handle that? Do they split it? Is it first in line?
It's a priority list.
What
So
takes priority? First come, first serve?
usually it's the
Government
bank,
agency,
the
taxes,
mortgage,
bank?
the mortgage lender usually gets first, and then there's a tier list that goes down from there.
My guess is if they're not paying their mortgage, the bank's going to foreclose before we will.
Well, and just another comment, one strategy would be to take the first step of going to the magistrate and requesting the authorization to do so. There's a whole notice procedure that goes in that. The owner of the property has to be mailed, just like a normal code enforcement proceeding. Typically when folks get something in the mail saying, foreclosure authorization, it tends to get people moving a bit faster than if they simply receive a notice of violation. So that in itself could spur some resolution of some of these liens. Although I'll just comment generally, it's not uncommon to see lien amounts of this 100,000. I've seen in other cities they get up to talking 500,000. I think I've seen one even get north of 1 mil. So just general comment about other cities.
Some of these places are abandoned
Right.
and they're eyesores.
Right.
So we need to do something.
Right, and one aspect of the foreclosure process, again, sometimes cities actually end up paying more than they get out of it.
Right.
And something to consider, though, is that one aspect of it is that you are essentially forcing a turnover of the property. You might be losing money, you might not be recouping the money that is owed to the city, but at the very least, the title of the property is passing to someone else who might take care of the property.
The end game constitutes the expense.
Right. Just another aspect of that process to consider.
Force them to the table.
Correct.
But Commissioner, but I keep wanting to call you Kelting today. But Commissioner Edmonds is correct. Some of these properties are vacant. Some of these properties, 4 pages, because we've had to go 4 pages of every month there was a violation. I don't think I know that title searches are going to cost us, but we have local attorneys here in town that could probably do have probably some of the title up to a certain chain on the title that can give us some answers pretty quickly on where we're at on these whatever liens might be on the property. We might not be able to foreclose on these or get our money back or send a letter. I'm just honestly, this has been going on way too long on some of these properties, and we've either sent a letter that gets attention for them to do something with their vacant properties, or for years have ignored letters from the city saying you're in violation of whatever.
The offer we gave them was more than generous, and they just didn't act on it. So I think we need to move forward and do what we need to do in a tactful way.
I have a question on this, just in general also, but on this first lady, it says the property was sold in 2017, but these liens have been accumulating since 2008. So when the property was sold in 2017, why, and this educate me, why weren't these liens settled at that point? Is it because we didn't file something, or you don't have to do it, or?
It's because it was a tax deed sale, and the buyer, it's a buyer beware situation. The buyer at the tax deed did not do due diligence and research the property for all these liens. So the liens do carry to that particular individual. So that's why they still remain on that property to the new property owner. And that's one of the only scenarios that I know that would happen.
Quick claim.
So
it's tax deed. They go to the courthouse and they
you don't
auction.
have to pay the lien off to the city of Clewiston.
Correct.
But if I buy it through a realtor, just like normal, then you got to satisfy it.
You don't. You can take title to the property subject to existing local liens.
All right, let me ask it this way. Is there anything we can do to make them pay it when they sell the property? And I don't know.
No, there's an obligation from the seller to notify the buyer of existing liens at the site. There could be, of course, cause of action between the two private individuals for the failure to disclose the existing encumbrances, but
and just
there wouldn't be an option for the city to step in into a private transaction and or force our liens as part of a private sale.
But if they're borrowing money from a bank, I would surely think the bank would want it satisfied, because now these liens are going to go.
Right.
And most lenders require a title search as part of the transaction, and would require the seller some resolvement of those prior to the sale going through. I don't know what the case was in that particular instance where that buyer, I don't know if it was just an all cash sale. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. So someone just paying cash, there was no bank involved.
Which usually is what the auctions on the steps are. I just want to point out that for the commission's notice, the Merida development lien that is on that property that's reverted back to the full price was one of those things that happened in sale process. They were aware of the lien. They went ahead and did the sale. They came and did a lien reduction before your magistrate. Your magistrate granted a lien reduction to be paid time certain. If not paid, then it reverted back to the original the lien reduction provided was not paid, so they did get it reverted back to the full amount that you see on your paper.
And one more question, just to make sure we're doing our part. When we impose the lien or the violation and it becomes a lien, we have to let the system, the court system, the whatever system know that there's a lien. I mean, that's something we have to make sure on the credit report or.
So as your community improvement division and your code enforcement officer for many years, the special magistrate order of finding violation is filed with the clerk of court, and it's filed after 3 months, because you do go in and ask the special magistrate's permission to lien the property after the fine assessment. So you have 3 months there so that you don't expend the $10 to record it in the Hendry County Clerk's office. If somebody's going to come in and pay it, you try to get them to come in and pay it within them 3 months. When they do not come in and pay it within them 3 months, you get permission from special magistrate to file it as a lien, which takes it out of his jurisdiction completely. And once the lien is filed, it is in your jurisdiction completely.
Where it should show up on a title search.
Yes.
And all of that's happened on all of these.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, appreciate that. So I guess the next step is to decide if we want to do a title search to see what priority we're in first. To see if we're even going to get paid for.
You could request the authorization to begin the foreclosure process in front of the magistrate, if you wanted to begin that process, and then conduct, if it's granted, then conduct the title search and see if it would be viable to do so.
So these have all gone before the magistrate, is that correct?
They have gone in front for the original violations, right? Whatever the, whatever the initial violation was, and it was adjudicated, found to be in violation, an order was.
And so we've recorded it.
Debbie, did you have something?
Yeah, just, I'm sorry, but historical value knowledge here is that the ones you see several with that first address, that was back when we had an ordinance that said, hey, when we give you a yellow door knocker, if you don't mow your yard in 7 days, city's going to mow it. City would then mow it within 7 days and would have a mowing lien, so to speak. It did not go before a magistrate. It was ordinance written.
So before we can get a title search done, you're saying that this has to go back before the magistrate?
Before you can request a foreclosure, it has to go back in front of the magistrate. What I'm saying is, strategically that might be beneficial because of the notice provisions. It gets sent out to the individual, puts on notice that the city is considering going down that path.
Maybe we start.
Maybe it spurs them to resolve it with you. As opposed, maybe it gets resolved before you have to expend the funds to hire, someone to do a title search. In my mind, that would probably be strategically the best.
I see a workshop in the future.
You want to see a workshop in the future?
Can staff recommend? I mean, it's just going to take some research to go look at the house and see if there's a mortgage, blah blah blah, and just kind of do some pre-work staff-wise to see and recommend to us which ones we need to take to the magistrate.
Right, and not all of these are going to make sense to pursue that.
That's what I said. I think we need. That's what I said earlier. I need to discuss these with you guys.
Y'all work together on this and come back to because there's a couple $100,000,
right?
Which may not be the millions, but nevertheless for our budget, and the process it takes to recoup it, we have to weigh all that out. But some of these vacant properties need to be addressed, there's no doubt. And if this is the only way that we can address it, then I know that the recommendation will come back to look at these a little bit more carefully. So is that good that they goes to staff and the three of y'all and the clerk look at all this and see what we already had recorded in the courts and the notifications that we've given out and come back with some recommendations?
Agreed.
Good with that? Okay.
I do.
Okay, you got anything else?
Nothing else.
Okay, now it's time for commission comments. Commissioner Evans, you have anything?
Number one, I'm just going to tell you that bought my dog from a professional family,
You have a license?
and they did not have a license, but I have a precious little spoiled dog, and very well taken care of. So I'm not going to throw Commissioner Thompson under the bus, but I'm just going to say that my little dog is perfect and very well taken care of. But I'm glad to address these properties that are eyesores in our community and that have bees and rodents and things in our neighborhoods. They need to be addressed. So I would like to see us follow through with that. I enjoyed our representatives today. That was a
Thompson?
I'm just thankful that our city was blessed enough to not have any major damage or anybody hurt during the hurricane and tornadoes. We definitely dodged 2 big bullets outside of our city limits. I'm hopeful that the residents see that we have spent their money wisely in our infrastructure. I believe we only had 362 homes without power, some for a very short period of time, some for a little longer. That don't happen by accident. We have really focused on hardening our infrastructure, and it's paid off. And hopefully we won't get another one. But if we do, we're going to be ready for it. I think staff did an incredible job preparing the city and the public in preparation for this hurricane. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how 911 went out countywide, and once again it had to go to the city of Clewiston dispatch countywide. That also didn't happen by accident, but it's been a lot of time and resources investing in that, and that also has paid off. And thanks to your staff and keeping us safe.
Yeah, if I can cut in, I mean, Travis's staff, Tom, they did an excellent job. And city staff, I mean, day after. Very proud of these guys. It just laid back, did their thing, and that's how it works.
Like flip it and automatic.
Yep. I mean, that's what you want. You leave them alone. you don't mess with them.
Awesome job.
Sorry about that.
that's a
Commissioner Gardner?
No, I'm very thankful that our police department serves as our EOC, and that we're reinforcements for countywide operations when it comes to hurricane and storms. It's very important that it shows a resiliency within our community because of the different departments that we have and the investment that we've made over the years in that infrastructure. And so I think it's something that we can be very proud of, that, just everyday normal life, but when it comes to storm situations and the need for emergency management, that we every time we step up to the plate to do what needs to be done to take care of the community. So I'm very thankful for that. Also thankful for the visit today from Congressman Franklin and from Representative Mello, and for them spending the time in our community and just getting to meet folks from, nonprofits to Main Street businesses to our museum to our community, and especially thankful for the pastors and the association that our pastors have together, that they all gathered together from the different churches today to be here to hear from our elected officials at the federal level and state level, and to offer prayer for our country, which is so important. So I'm thankful. We're blessed.
Commissioner Haslett?
I'll just echo, what everybody else said, obviously, but I don't want to repeat it all. But I will touch on thanking the commission. Those of you that did participate, the South Florida Agricultural Foundation had legislative aids in town last week, and we actually had someone from Franklin's office on this tour and the last. So I want to thank you guys for coming down to dinner with them and just kind of showcasing the city and the city manager coming down. And Mr. Pittman, you spoke to that group, and I think it means a lot. It means a lot to our organization, and it means a lot to the staffers to hear from you all. So, in addition to what everyone else has said up here this evening, I'd just like to add that.
To be a small town, we're very blessed. We have really great representatives, state and federal. They love it when they come out here and get the tour of the lake and the sugar mill and everything else. And it's a testament to you guys sitting out there too, just for your love for the community and for people. And they see that. And with the Senate President again, Ms. Pasadomo is going to fight for our community. I mean, I know I keep bringing up this fire truck, but that's unheard of to get a grant funding for $3 million. What was it? $1.4 million fire truck that's with a ladder that can now reach to the top of the Hampton Inn and you can go to the sugar mill.
And don't
And that was
forget,
your water line.
best city commissioners in South Florida.
But I do. I echo what all the commissioners said about just coming together as a unit, as a family, not only for these hurricanes, but here in our community, I know we've had more than 3 people probably, but we've had 3 people, citizens and well-known citizens die in our community recently. And just to see the way we came together, there was no black or white, there was no rich or poor. Everyone came together, loved on each other, and helped each other. And that's why I love Clewiston. It's people, when the chips are down, we come together and we help each other. And we proved it through the hurricane. We proved it through helping families through their losses. And I'm very proud to be a part of this community. So with that, if no one has anything else, we have a motion and we are adjourned. Have a great evening.